The bass line of Hail Mary thundered through the Meadowlands Arena as 32,000 fans moved as one organism to Tupac's hypnotic flow. Completely unaware, they were about to witness the most explosive clash between two completely different philosophies of hip-hop performance in music history. When Busta Rhymes walked onto the stage with his signature manic energy and called Tupac's serious, message-driven style boring compared to real entertainment, what followed would divide the hip-hop community forever and prove that sometimes the most devastating battles aren't fought with weapons, but with competing visions of what art should be and whether entertainment and enlightenment can coexist on the same stage. It was August 23, 1996, at the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, during Tupac's All Eyes on Me tour. This show had special significance because it was taking place in the heart of East Coast hip-hop territory, and Tupac was using the performance to demonstrate that West Coast rap had evolved beyond regional limitations into a global cultural force. But what made this particular evening explosive was the surprise appearance of Busta Rhymes, who had become hip-hop's most innovative and unpredictable performer. Busta represented everything wild, experimental, and purely entertaining about rap music. His videos were surreal visual spectacles, his live shows were chaotic celebrations, and his entire persona was built around the idea that hip-hop should be fun, surprising, and visually stunning above all else. The philosophical divide between Tupac and Busta had been building for months in interviews and industry conversations. Tupac consistently positioned himself as hip-hop's conscience, someone whose music addressed serious social issues, political realities, and the struggles of marginalized communities. His performances were intense, emotional experiences designed to educate and inspire as much as entertain. Busta, on the other hand, had been vocal in his belief that hip-hop was becoming too serious, too preachy, and too focused on negativity. In recent interviews, he had suggested that artists like Tupac were bringing people down with constant discussions of violence, poverty, and social injustice, when hip-hop should be uplifting people through creativity, humor, and pure entertainment value. The tension had reached a breaking point when Busta had given an interview to Rolling Stone 3 weeks earlier, where he specifically criticized what he called message rap martyrdom, saying that some artists were more interested in being seen as prophets than in creating music that made people feel good. While he hadn't mentioned Tupac by name, everyone in the hip-hop community understood exactly who he was referring to. What Tupac didn't know was that Busta had decided to address this philosophical divide publicly, and that he had chosen tonight's concert as the venue for a confrontation that would force the hip-hop community to choose between two completely different visions of what their culture should represent. The evening had started as one of Tupac's most powerful performances. His set was emotionally intense and socially conscious, with each song building on themes of struggle, resistance, and hope. The crowd was completely engaged, understanding that they were witnessing art that went beyond entertainment into genuine cultural commentary. But during the middle of Hail Mary, Busta Rhymes appeared in the wings of the stage, wearing one of his characteristically outrageous outfits, a bright yellow tracksuit with LED lights embedded in the fabric that flashed in sync with his movements. His presence was immediately noticeable because everything about his aesthetic was the opposite of Tupac's serious, street-focused image. At first, the crowd assumed this was going to be a surprise collaboration between two of hip-hop's biggest stars. The cheering reached deafening levels as fans anticipated what they thought would be an unprecedented meeting of different rap styles. But as Busta walked onto center stage, his body language and expression made it clear that this wasn't going to be a friendly collaboration. Tupac stopped his performance mid-verse, clearly surprised by Busta's appearance and unsure of his intentions. "Busta," Tupac said into his microphone, his voice carrying clearly through the massive venue. "What's good, man? You want to jump on this track?" Instead of accepting the invitation to collaborate, Busta grabbed one of the backup microphones and addressed both Tupac and the crowd with an energy that was immediately different from the serious tone that had characterized the evening. "Yo, yo, yo," Busta shouted, his voice carrying the manic enthusiasm that had made him famous. "Hold up, hold up, hold up. I need to talk to y'all about something real quick." The crowd's energy shifted as they sensed that something unexpected was about to happen. I've been watching this show for the last hour, Busta continued, pacing around the stage with his characteristic hyperactive movement. And I got to ask y'all something. When did hip-hop become so serious? When did our music stop being about making people feel good and start being about making people feel depressed? The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some people cheered for Busta's energy, while others sensed that he was about to criticize Tupac and began expressing their disapproval. Tupac's expression showed that he immediately understood this was going to be a philosophical challenge rather than a musical collaboration. "What you trying to say, Busta?" Tupac asked, his voice carrying a warning edge that people who knew him had learned to recognize. "What I'm saying," Busta replied, now addressing the entire crowd while making it clear he was really talking to Tupac, "is that hip-hop used to be about celebration, creativity, and making people forget their problems for a while. Now it's become all doom and gloom, all violence and death, all serious faces and heavy messages." The accuracy of his critique was undeniable, and the crowd could sense that they were witnessing a genuine philosophical disagreement between two major artists. "And I'm not saying that serious topics don't have their place," Busta continued. "But when that's all we do, when every song is about struggle and pain and injustice, we're not uplifting our people, we're just reminding them of everything that's wrong with their lives." The crowd's reaction was becoming more complex as they realized they were witnessing a debate about the fundamental purpose of hip-hop music. Tupac's response showed that he wasn't going to let Busta's critique go unanswered. "So you think I should ignore the reality that my people are living in?" Tupac asked, walking closer to Busta until they were face to face at center stage. "You think I should pretend that everything is good when kids are getting shot in the streets, when families are struggling to survive, when the system is designed to keep us down? I think you should balance the reality with some hope." Busta shot back, his energy level remaining high, even as the conversation became more serious. "I think you should show people that there's more to life than just struggle and pain. I think you should make music that helps people rise above their circumstances instead of just documenting how bad those circumstances are." The philosophical sophistication of their debate was making it clear that this went far beyond simple personality conflict into fundamental questions about the social responsibility of artists. "Rise above?" Tupac repeated, his voice rising with what sounded like genuine anger. "Busta, how can people rise above something if they don't first understand what they're dealing with? How can we solve problems if we don't talk about them honestly?" "By showing them something better to aspire to," Busta replied. "By creating music that makes them feel powerful and creative and capable instead of music that makes them feel like victims." The crowd was completely silent now, understanding that they were witnessing something that went to the heart of hip-hop's identity and purpose. But what Busta said next would transform their philosophical disagreement into a personal attack that made the confrontation much more dangerous. "And if I'm being completely honest," Busta continued, his voice now carrying a challenge that was unmistakable, "your performance style is boring compared to what hip-hop can really be. You stand there with serious faces, rapping about serious topics, and call that entertainment. But where's the creativity? Where's the visual excitement? Where's the pure joy of performance?" The crowd's reaction was immediate and hostile toward Busta. Criticizing Tupac's message was one thing, but attacking his performance ability in front of his own fans was something entirely different. "Boring," Tupac repeated, and his voice carried the kind of controlled fury that had made him legendary. "You think my performance is boring, compared to what hip-hop performance can be?" "Yeah, I do," Busta replied, apparently committed to his critique despite the obvious danger of attacking Tupac in front of 32,000 of his fans. "You want to see what real hip-hop performance looks like?" Busta continued, beginning to move around the stage with the wild, unpredictable energy that had made him famous. "You want to see what happens when an artist cares more about entertaining people than about lecturing them?" What happened next was unprecedented in hip-hop history. Busta Rhymes began performing an impromptu freestyle that was simultaneously a musical masterpiece and a direct challenge to everything Tupac represented about performance style. His delivery was manic, visual, and completely unpredictable. He incorporated dance moves, sound effects, and theatrical elements that transformed the stage into a completely different kind of entertainment experience. The contrast with Tupac's serious message-focused style was immediate and dramatic. But more than that, Busta's performance was genuinely impressive. His lyrical ability was undeniable, his creativity was stunning, and his ability to command audience attention through pure entertainment value was obvious to everyone watching. The crowd's reaction was complex. They were genuinely impressed by Busta's performance, but they were also loyal to Tupac and uncomfortable with the direct challenge to their favorite artist. When Busta finished his freestyle, the silence that followed lasted almost 30 seconds as everyone processed what they had just witnessed. Finally, Tupac spoke, and his words would escalate the confrontation into something much more personal and potentially dangerous. "That was impressive," Tupac said, his voice carrying grudging respect for Busta's ability. "But you know what? Flash and entertainment value don't change the world. Dance moves and sound effects don't feed hungry children. Creative visuals don't stop bullets." The crowd erupted in support of Tupac's response, understanding that he was articulating something they felt about the relationship between art and social responsibility. "You can entertain people all you want," Tupac continued, "but if you're not educating them, if you're not inspiring them to think and act and change their circumstances, then you're just a distraction. You're just helping them forget their problems instead of helping them solve them." Busta's response would prove that he wasn't going to back down from the philosophical challenge. "And you can educate and inspire all you want," Busta shot back. "But if people stop listening because your message is wrapped in depression and violence, then you're not changing anything either. You're just preaching to people who already agree with you." The accuracy of both of their critiques was making it clear that they were each articulating legitimate but incompatible approaches to hip-hop's social function. "At least people listen to my message," Tupac replied, his voice now carrying genuine anger. "At least they walk away from my concerts thinking about something important instead of just being entertained for 2 hours and going home unchanged." "Do they?" Busta asked. And his challenge was devastating in its precision, because if your message was really changing people, wouldn't the problems you rap about be getting better instead of worse? If conscious rap was really making a difference, wouldn't we see less violence in hip-hop instead of more? The question hit Tupac and the crowd like a physical blow, because it challenged the fundamental assumption that message-driven hip-hop was actually accomplishing its stated goals. The silence that followed showed that Busta had touched on something that many people in the hip-hop community had been thinking but hadn't been willing to say publicly. But Tupac's response would prove that he wasn't going to let Busta's critique go unanswered, even if it meant exposing some uncomfortable truths about his own limitations. "You right," Tupac said, and his admission surprised everyone in the venue. "You right that the problems I rap about aren't getting better. You right that conscious rap hasn't solved the issues I talk about in my music." The crowd was stunned by Tupac's honesty and vulnerability in admitting the limitations of his approach. "But you know what the difference is between us?" Tupac continued, his voice gaining strength as he found his argument. "I'm trying to do something about those problems, even if I'm not succeeding. You're just pretending they don't exist. I'm fighting a war that I might lose. You're not fighting at all." The philosophical power of Tupac's response was undeniable, and it shifted the crowd's energy back toward supporting his position. But Busta's final response would leave the confrontation unresolved and force everyone listening to grapple with questions that had no easy answers. "Maybe," Busta said, his manic energy finally settling into something more thoughtful, "the real answer is that hip-hop is big enough for both approaches. Maybe some people need your message, and other people need my entertainment. Maybe the culture is stronger when it includes serious artists and fun artists, conscious rappers and party rappers." The wisdom of his conclusion was obvious, but it also highlighted how much damage had been done to both artists' reputations during their confrontation. "Maybe you're right," Tupac agreed, apparently recognizing that their debate had reached a point where continued conflict would hurt both of them and the culture they both loved. The Meadowlands confrontation between Tupac and Busta Rhymes became legendary not for its resolution but for the questions it raised about hip-hop's purpose and responsibility. Video footage of their philosophical debate spread rapidly through underground networks and eventually influenced how both artists approached their future work. For Tupac, the confrontation reinforced his commitment to message-driven music, while also challenging him to find ways to make serious topics more engaging and accessible to wider audiences. For Busta, the experience deepened his appreciation for hip-hop's potential as a vehicle for social change, while maintaining his belief that entertainment value was essential for reaching people who might not otherwise engage with serious topics. 28 years later, the style war between Tupac and Busta Rhymes remains one of the most intellectually sophisticated debates in hip-hop history, proving that sometimes the most important battles are fought not with physical weapons, but with competing philosophies about art's role in society, and whether entertainment and enlightenment can coexist in the same culture.